Hey, what's up, guys? Finally, we come to the last part of this course. And the last part is about bonds and stocks in the financial market. And this chapter, we're going to review bond prices, bond yield to maturity, how to evaluate a bond, and the bonds with call options, and how to put bonds in a portfolio and hedge the risk of interest rate hikes. Chapter 14, bond prices and yields. Number 5, a bond with an annual coupon rate of 4.8 sells for $970. What is the bond's current yield? So what is the current yield? Current yield is the coupon over the current price. What is the coupon? The coupon is 4.8% times $1,000. Always remember that it's 1,000. So the coupon payment is $48, and the current yield is 48 over 970. Number 16, a bond has a current yield of 9% and a yield to maturity of 10%. Is the bond selling above or below par value? Explain. So the bond has a has a current yield of 9%. So the coupon over current price is 9%. And the yield to maturity is more than 9%. So where do you get the 1% from? You must get it from the price. So the bond must be sold below the par value or must be sold at a discount because you must get compensated from the price if the coupon does not give you the return. Number 21, a 30-year maturity, 8% coupon bond paying coupons semi-annually is callable in 5 years at a call price of $1,100. The bond currently sells at a yield to maturity of 7%, which is 3.5% half year because this is a semi-annual bond. So what is the yield to call? When we are solving the problems of callable bonds, we regard the call price as the future value, as the value you get paid back when the bond is called. So we just plug in those numbers. What is the yield to call? There are so first we need to get the selling price now based on the 3.5% yield to maturity semi-annually. So the number of periods is 60. The yield is 3.5. The future value is 1,000, and the payment, the coupon, is 40. How do we get the price? We use financial calculators or use PV function from Excel. This will give us 1,124.72, the current selling price. Therefore, the yield to call, so now the future value has changed from 1,000 to 1,100. So now the yield to call is to plug in the current selling price, the future value, the callable price of 1,100. The payment is the same, and now it's callable in 5 years, and the coupon is given semi-annually. So there are 5 times to 10 periods. And the yield to call, we use the rate function. Yes, the rate function. Or we use our financial calculator. It's either YTM or I over Y. And then what is the yield to call if the call price is only 1,050? Well, we just plug in 1,050 into the future value, and it will give us the right numbers. What is the yield to call if the call price is 1,100, but the bond can be called in 2 years instead of 5 years? So if instead it's 2 years, then the period, then the period should be 4 instead of 10. And the current selling price is the same. Future value is 1,100. The payment is the same. So if we use the rate function and plug in those numbers, it will give us 3.031% semi-annually. Just be sure that when we say yield to call, we actually need the APR, the annual percentage rate. So you must time 2 by the 3.031. So it's 6.0362% annually. Number 28. What would be the likely effect on the yield to maturity of a bond resulting from A, an increase in the issuing firm's times to interest earned ratio? So the times interest earned ratio is the earning over interest the company should pay. So if the ratio rises, then the default risk decreases. So the yield to maturity must decrease because the default risk decreases. B, an increase in the issuing firm's debt to equity ratio. If the debt to equity ratio is higher, then the default risk is higher. So the yield to maturity must rise to compensate the investor for the risk. C, an increase in the issuing firm's quick ratio. If the quick ratio rises, then the default risk decreases. So the yield to maturity must decrease. CFA problems. Number 2, bonds of Zillow Corporation with a par value of 1,000 sells for 960, maturing in 5 years and have a 7% annual coupon rate paid semi-annually. A, calculate the current yield. So the current yield is the coupon over the price. What is the coupon? It's a it's an annual coupon, so we don't have to divide 2. It's just 7% times 1,000 face value, so the coupon is $70, and the current price is 960. Yield to maturity. Well, we just plug in those numbers. Just be sure that when you put in present value, it's your initial investment, so it must be negative. And the number of periods, 10 years. I'm sorry. It's an annual coupon rate paid semi-annually. So it's actually, oops, sorry. It's actually 35 semi-annually, and the current yield is your total coupon a year over the price, so it's 70 over 960. And now the number of periods should be 5 years times 2 because it's a semi-annual bond. Present value negative 960 because 960 is your initial investment. And the future value, what you get paid back is 1,000. And the payment each period is 35 bucks. So use the rate function in Excel. We just plug in MPV, FV, and the payment. We'll get the right number. Number 3, realized compound yield for an investor with a 3-year holding period and reinvestment rate of 6% over the period. At the end of 3 years and the 7% coupon bonds with 2 years remaining will sell to yield 7%. So if we see that the sell to yield rate is 7% and it's a 7% coupon bond, then if it's also compounded semi-annually, then the bond it's selling at par. So how do we get the number? First, we need to find the future value of reinvested coupons and principal. There will be 6 payments of $35 each, reinvested semi-annually at 3% per period. There is an reinvestment rate of 6% over the period, and we assume that it's also compounded semi-annually. So on a financial calculator, we get the future value of all the coupon payments over the 6 periods. So it's $226. And 3 years from now, the bond will be selling at par because the sell to yield is 7%, and the coupon rate is also 7%. So the bond will be sold at par. So it's $1,000. And what we get back in 3 years, it will be the future value of all the coupon payments, assuming a 6% reinvestment rate. And what we get back is the face value. The bond is sold at par. So what the total payback, the future value of the total payback is 226. Then we find the rate Y realized that makes the future value of the purchase price equal to 100, equal to the future value of the total payback. What we put in is $960. So the realized gain is the compound return over the 3 years or over the 6 semi-annual periods. And the future value, the total payback at the end when we sell the bond is 1,226. So the realized gain is 4.166% semi-annually. If we want the annual rate, we must time 2 on it. So the annual bond equivalent yield should be 8%, 8.332%. Number 6, a bond with the call feature, number 1, is attractive because the immediate receipt of principal plus premium produces a high return. Well, this is not so attractive because although you get compensated from the price, when the bond is called and the borrower pay back your money, the market interest now should be low, because otherwise the borrower will not call back the bond or buy back the bond. So the rate at which you can reinvest will be low. So it's not that attractive from the price-wise. B is more apt to be called when interest rates are high, because the interest savings will be greater. This is false, because only when the interest rate decreases below what the borrower should pay, then they will buy back the bond or call the bond. C will usually have a higher yield to maturity than a similar non-callable bond. This is true, and this is the major feature that interests the investors to the callable bond, because the yield to maturity on the callable bond must compensate the investor for the risk of call. Because when the bond is called, the reinvestment rate will be low. See, in which one of the following cases is the bond selling at a discount? A, coupon rate is greater than current yield, which is greater than yield to maturity. If the coupon rate is greater than yield to maturity, the bond will be sold at a premium. Coupon rate, current yield, and yield to maturity are all the same. This is false. Number three, C, coupon rate is less than the current yield, which is less than yield to maturity. If the coupon rate is less than yield to maturity, then you must be compensated from the price. So the bond will be sold at a discount. And C is the right answer. Chapter 16, Managing Bond Portfolios. So in this chapter, we put bonds in a portfolio, and to measure the risk, we will use the duration and the curvature. Mainly, we use duration. Number three, a 9-year-old bond, maturity bond, has a yield of 10% and a duration of 7 years. If the market yield changes by 50 basis points, what is the percentage change in the bond's price? So if we want to know what's the change of bond price against the change in yield, we must use the modified duration formula. So basically, D over Y, 1 plus Y is the modified duration, and delta P is on the right-hand side. Delta Y is the change in yield. So always remember that the change in price is almost equal to modified duration times change in yield. This is not actually equal, it's just an approximation. So if we plug in those numbers, the duration, the yield to maturity 10%, and the change in yield 50 basis points. So what is a basis point? Basis point is a hundredth of a hundredth. So 100 is 1%. What is a basis point? Basis point is 0.01%. You just plug in those numbers, and then there is a 3.27% decline in bond price. Number 6, The historical yield spread between AAA bonds and Treasury bonds widened dramatically during the financial crisis because the Treasury bond is the safe haven. If you believe that the spread would soon return to more typical historical levels, what should you have done? This would be an example of what sort of bond swap. So if you believe the credit spread will shrink to the normal level, you should shift your fund from treasury bonds into AAA bonds, because as the spread narrows, the AAA bonds will outperform the treasury bonds. That is, the AAA bonds price will return to normal levels. And this is an example of an intermarket spread swap. Number 7. Well, what is an intermarket? You might ask. Well, intermarket is you shift from the treasury market to the corporate bond market, or you shift from corporate bond market to junk bond market. This is what we call intermarket. Number 7, you predict that interest rates are about to fall. Which bond will give you the highest capital gain? Well, if you predict that interest rates is about to fall, then the bond price must rise. And what you get compensated most for price-wise, that is the long maturity zero coupon bonds. First, if you have a long maturity, then the duration will be long. And if it's zero coupon, the duration will be even higher. So you have a super big duration bonds and the interest rate is about to fall, you will get the highest capital gain. Number 17, Frank Myers, CFA, will illustrate the bond portfolio to the customer. So the customer asks the CFA about how a fixed income manager would position his portfolio to capitalize on expectations of increasing interest rates. Which of the following would be the most appropriate strategy? If the interest rate is increasing, then the bond market is facing big problems because the bond price will fall. So to hedge the risk of falling bond prices, the CFA should shorten his portfolio duration, because duration is the price sensitivity to interest rate hikes. Well, that's it. That's the answer of this question. CFA problems number 2. A 6% coupon bond paying interest annually has a modified duration of 10 years, selling for $800, and is priced at a yield to maturity of 8%. If the yield to maturity increases to 9%, what is the predicted change in price using the duration concept? So if we want to use the duration concept, and we must use modified duration when considering what's the effect of change in yield on the change in price. So the right-hand side is the change in price. The left-hand side is modified duration. And the change in yield is 1%. And the current price is $800. So the bond price will decrease by how much? $80. C, a bond with annual coupon payments. Well, this question is basically this question. The difference is that here we calculate the percentage change, and now if you multiply the percentage change on the current bond price, we will get the dollar amount change. C, a bond with annual coupon payments has a coupon rate of 8%, yield to maturity of 10%, and Macaulay duration of 9 years. What is the bond's modified duration? Well, modified duration is the Macaulay duration over 1 plus y. What is y? Y is the yield to maturity, 10%. So the modified duration is 8.18. F, which bond has the longest duration? Well, this is a classical question. If you have longer maturity and lower coupon payment, you have a longer duration. So the correct answer should be C. Number 9, a member of a firm's investment committee is very interested in learning about management of fixed income portfolios. He would like to know how fixed income managers position portfolios to capitalize on their expectations concerning 3 factors which influence interest rates. A, changing the level of interest rates. B, changing yield spreads across or between sectors. C, changing yield spreads as to a particular instrument. So if a manager believes that there is an interest rate hike, then the manager should engage in a rate anticipation swap. He should lengthening the duration if the rate is expected to fall, and shortening duration if the rates are expected to rise. B, if there is a change in yield spreads across or between sectors, well, then, like what we did with the Treasury and corporate bond market, it would call for an intermarket spread swap, in which the manager buys bonds in the sector for which yields are expected to fall because the bond price is expected to rise relative to other bonds, and sell bonds in the sector for which yields are expected to rise because the price is expected to fall. C, changes in yield spreads to a particular instrument. Well, this question is very tricky because now you are using a particular instrument, but the essence is the same. When you are using a particular instrument, well, it's also about hedging the interest rate hike risk. So it will call for a substitution swap, in which this instrument is sold if its yield is expected to rise relative to the yield of other similar bonds, or is bought if its yield is expected to fall relative to the yield of other similar bonds. Because if the yield is expected to rise, the price is expected to fall. So you basically compare this security to a simple bond. If the price is expected to fall, then you should sell the security. Well, that's all for bond valuation and bond portfolios. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me questions on the class or write me an email. And good luck on the final exam review. Thank you. See you next time.